I'm here in Amsterdam, and I'm excited to introduce the Leadership and Collaboration track. All presentations in this track will cover leadership lessons and collaboration tactics for uniting product teams and building more impactful products that meet user and business needs. For our first presentation, I'm pleased to introduce Paige Bennett, lead user researcher at Affirm. In her presentation, Paige showcases how collaborative workshops can be used at each step in the product development process, how to run them efficiently, and how to measure success. Let's dive in.
Hi, I'm Paige, and I am a user research manager at Affirm. I manage and lead the user research team, and I'm so excited to talk with you today about a secret tool that can be in your toolbox and can help you build better products for your customers. If you're at this conference, chances are you have run a workshop before, and I would love to know, to you, what's the scariest or most intimidating thing about running a workshop? We're going to talk about some of those scary and intimidating things today, and we're going to talk about how to overcome them. So in the next little while, I'm going to talk to you about the power of workshops, what it can do to help you build a better product. I'm also going to share with you the types of workshops and how you can bring those workshops into each phase of the product development process. I'm going to talk to you about how to remove delays and how to measure success. I'm really excited about this subject. My colleague Colleen Carroll and I, a few months ago, knew that we wanted to share with people the tool that we use so often at Affirm and have used at other companies as well. And so we put together this guide to help you understand how workshops can help you build better products and at what stage you should consider different types of workshops. Now, I'd like for you to think about building a product like a journey. And in just a minute, we're going to go on our journey and we're going to talk about the process from packing your bags and coming from your origin to getting to your destination, which is hopefully a successful product. But first, let's talk about the power of workshops. Workshops can help you generate new ideas. They're really wonderful tools in allowing your teams to come together and think about what you could do maybe outside of the box or within the constraints that you're working with. It can also help you identify gaps in your product, gaps in your knowledge, and gaps in what you know about your customers and how they might use your products. Workshops can help you prioritize resourcing. It can help your team align on what resourcing looks like. It can help you identify future experiences. It can help you align on actions. And finally, workshops are a really great tool for driving alignment. So we often are working with so many different cross-functional partners, and a lot of us are working in these remote environments. Workshops are a really great tool in helping bring alignment across different partners and across different functions so you know what goal you're working towards and you know what you're working with. So now that we know a little bit about the power that workshops have, let's talk about the different types of workshops. I mentioned that we're going on a journey. If you think about building a product as this epic journey, let's think about the different parts of the product development process. So it starts with an idea, and it ends with getting your product in the market. Now, there are different types of workshops that you can do at different types of the product development process. So let's start with the first step in developing a product, that idea generation step. And let's look at the types of workshops that are really good for this stage of the product development process. So here we're going to talk about insights, mapping, and brainstorming. 3 really good types of workshops for this stage of the product development process. Now, I'm going to talk to you about different questions that these workshops can help answer and what the expected outputs are from each of these workshops. So let's start with the Insights workshop. So Insights workshops are really great for helping understand who your customers are, what you're going to do with that knowledge, as well as what you've done in the past. Expected outputs from this type of workshop. So for this type of workshop, you can expect to identify the knowledge gaps and to define what you know about your target audience. Now, when it comes to mapping workshops, these are great for being able to understand what the timeline is that you're executing against and to understand what resourcing looks like, as well as identify different dependencies. The outputs here is that you can expect to drive alignment about what those timelines are, and you can define commitment for size. Now, the next workshop, and one of my favorites, is the brainstorming workshop. And in the idea generation phase, this type of workshop is really great for understanding what would an ideal experience look like. It can also help you understand what are the particular constructs for the problem that you're trying to solve. The outputs here you can expect to achieve is to identify potential guardrails for your project. Now, I want to share with you a few examples all along the way of these different types of workshops. Let's look at an example from an idea generation workshop that I ran recently. We were trying to understand what we had explored in the past and who our customers were. And so we held this workshop to help understand what our value props would be. We did an activity called a value props canvas using past research. We also created value statements that the group voted on. And finally, we were able to align on what we wanted to explore further. The output for this particular workshop ended up becoming a piece of quant research. We ended up holding a survey to identify which value props our customers most resonated with. So now that we have passed the idea generation phase, we are well on our way to building a better product. Now we are in the concepting phase. In this phase, there are 4 particular workshops that I want to share with you about: scoping, planning, mapping, and brainstorming. So let's start with the scoping workshop. Now, in this workshop, you're going to be able to identify a few different questions, like how do these questions map to what we know about what our users are thinking and doing? You're also going to be able to explore what hypotheses you have about particular solutions. Now, the outputs that you can expect here include identifying the constraints that your team is operating under. Well, it's also going to help you identify the research type and what the cross-functional asks are. In a planning workshop, it's going to help you answer what's the timeline that you're working under, what are the critical dependencies, and what does resourcing look like. The outputs you can expect here include defining the commitment size, as well as identifying a timeline for agreement. The last 2 workshops in this phase are mapping and brainstorming. In a mapping workshop, it's going to help answer where in the customer journey does this experience surface, as well as how this concept affects other parts of the journey. Now, the outputs that you can expect here include identifying dependencies and potential ripple effects of product changes. Finally, in brainstorming, you're going to identify within the set of constraints, what does the set of feasible solutions look like? And that's going to help you identify constructs for exploration or for testing. Now, here's an example of a scoping workshop. We wanted to help answer how these questions map to what users are doing and thinking. We also wanted to help to answer what hypotheses we hold for a particular solution. So we did 3 different activities here. The first thing we did was to align with partners on what questions they have and what decisions answering those questions will help answer. Then we identified the knowledge gap. You'll see that we plotted this along a matrix of behavior versus attitudinal, quantitative versus qualitative. So that helps us get to the research type that we might be working with. And finally, we did a bullseye activity that helped us prioritize our research questions. What are those primary questions versus secondary and tertiary? This other example is from a mapping workshop where we were wanting to create a customer journey map. The questions here that we were trying to answer is where in the customer journey do different experiences that we were working on surface. We also wanted to help answer how does this concept affect the user journey. So we identified pain points within each step, and then we created a journey map that surfaced those different pain points, product opportunities, as well as research citation. So now that we're done with the concepting phase, we are now into prototyping. We have a product that we're building, we're prototyping that product, and we're really wanting to get it out into the market. And in this phase, there are 2 particular workshops that I want to talk to you about: synthesis and insights. And these are 2 of my favorites. You're going to see that they come up again. They're workshops that you can hold at different parts of the product development process. Now, in this particular phase, a synthesis workshop is really good for helping answer 2 particular questions. One is our solution better than what's out there? And what themes are present in the data. This is going to help you get deeper buy-in into findings and also this shared sense of ownership over those findings with your cross-functional partners. Now, an insights workshop is also going to be able to help you understand if the solution is better than what's out there. Plus, it's going to help you answer what are the ramifications that we see in the data and what are the next steps that we need to take. Outputs here include shared knowledge of the customer's experience, as well as actions for cross-functional teams. So this is an example of a synthesis workshop that one of my colleagues ran at a former company. Now, what was great about this synthesis workshop is that our cross-functional partners were brought into the synthesis. They participated in this. In this video, you can see that they are taking bits and pieces from interviews and they're clustering, they're identifying different themes, and those themes are taking shape and form over the course of an afternoon. They were able to get a much deeper sense of buy-in into those insights because they had played this very participatory role in creating those insights. So we have prototyped a particular solution or product, and now we are in the QAing phase. There's one particular workshop here that can be super helpful, and that is brainstorming. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to see that these different types of workshops come up a few different places in the product development process. So they can play a role in maybe the idea generation phase, and they can come back and play a role in the QAing phase. However, the questions that these workshops can answer are going to change depending on the product development phase they are in. So in this case, we see that the brainstorming workshop has surfaced again, but the questions are slightly different than before. So in this particular phase, the brainstorming workshop is going to help us surface what usability issues there are out there and what solutions there are to help fix these issues. This is going to help you get that aligned list on what the fixes are that you need to take before launching your product into the market. We're moving right along now, and we've just got 3 more phases in the product development process to hit before we've reached our destination. Now we're in the beta testing phase. The beta testing and QAing can be quite similar, but in the beta testing phase, you're going to see that the synthesis and insights workshops are coming back. Again, their questions are a little bit different now, but they're going to be really important in this phase. So there's one overarching question that both the synthesis and insights workshop can answer, and that's, can our solution be used? In this phase, the synthesis workshops can also help you answer what patterns are up there and how do we evaluate our hypotheses. The outputs that you can expect from the synthesis workshop include a shared sense of ownership over the research and alignment on what next steps you need to take if there needs to be any redirection at this point. Now, in your insights workshop, this is going to be super helpful for also answering that overarching question of, can our solution be used? Plus, you're going to help answer an additional 2 questions. What should we reconsider? And where should we double down? Now, the outputs that you can expect in this phase include actions for your cross-functional team to take prior to launch, a shared knowledge of what the customer's experience looks like, unexpected effects on the customer's experience. And finally, the last output that you can expect here is what value props are going to need to be in that go-to-market strategy. So now that you're in the scaling phase of your product development process, there are 3 workshops in particular that are going to be helpful here. So we've now made it to the last 2 stops along our journey of developing great products. In the scaling stage, you are likely going to be scaling this to smaller subset groups of your customer base. And in this stage, as you are testing and seeing their reaction to your product and how they use it, 3 workshops in particular are going to be helpful here. Once again, synthesis and insights are coming up, and brainstorming is making another appearance. So you can see that in the synthesis workshops at this stage, you're looking for patterns once again. Are there patterns to the insights that you're receiving? You're also going to be looking at how those may prevent audiences from using your solution. The outputs that you can expect here include surfacing those pain points for alignment and understanding the why behind user behavior. Now, in your insights workshop within this phase, you're going to be able to answer 3 different questions. What should we reconsider? where should we double down, and how do pain points prevent our audiences from using our solution? So there are some similar questions here as well. The outputs here that you're going to expect to be able to receive are including an alignment and understanding of your users, understanding of the trade-offs, and a sense of prioritization. And finally, a brainstorming workshop is going to help you understand what an iteration of this experience looks like. So if you were to go from where your product is now into the future, let's say 6 months, a year, etc., how does your product evolve? What will it eventually look like? If your user base starts to shift and change, how might your product look for that? And the outputs that you can expect to receive for this particular workshop in this phase includes identifying the constructs for experimentation to let you know what to go and test further. So here is an example of a combination synthesis and brainstorming workshop that my colleague Colleen held a few weeks ago. And you'll see that the first thing that they started to do was watch user videos and think about the insights that were gleaned from those videos in different categories and on different topics. They were then able to take the pain points that they had observed and use that as inspiration for brainstorming. The 2 questions that they wanted to answer is, are there patterns or themes that they need to be aware of? And how can they make this product accessible, obtainable, intriguing to a wider audience? So we are at the last stage of our product journey now. We've made it and we are almost at our destination. And we're in the maintenance phase. So our product is out there. We're continuing to gather data on what users are doing with our product, but we're very much in the maintenance stage of just keeping our product running. Now, there are 3 particular workshops that we're going to wrap up our journey with: synthesis, insights, and brainstorming. So not so different from what we've seen before, but once again, our questions are changing a little bit. So in this phase, our synthesis questions are going to help us answer, can our solution be used? And how can it be improved? The outputs that we can expect here is alignment on how to take this experience from where it is today to where it needs to be in the future. With our insights workshop at this phase of the product development process, we're also wanting to think about what we could reconsider based on usage patterns, among these other different questions that this type of workshop can help answer. And the output here is really advocacy for net new research, advocacy for an additional workshop, advocacy for further explorations. And finally, you will see that our brainstorming workshop has made another appearance here. In addition to those overarching questions around, can our solution be used? Again, this brainstorming workshop at this phase of the product development process is going to help your team think about where your product is going. How can it evolve from where it is today? And the output here is that you can identify what you can further explore. So you've made it to your destination. However, it was probably not without delays. If you've traveled recently, likely you have experienced delays in some form or another. So let's talk about the delays that you may encounter when trying to run a successful workshop and how you can remove some of those delays. There are 7 delays in particular that I want to talk to you about that I've encountered along the way, and I'm sure you have too. So let's jump in and take a look at these delays and how we can remove them. So let's start with value, especially today when everybody's calendars are super packed and super full. It can be hard to show the value of workshopping, taking the time that you need to take. There can be a lack of understanding of the value that workshops can provide. So what can you do about this? You can align on the goals and outputs beforehand. Make sure that it's super clear to your team what they're going to be doing, what's the goal of the workshop, what they're going to be getting out of it. Communicate expectations and timing, and finally, send follow-up emails. Let them know what has taken place because of this workshop. Are there actions that they need to take? Make sure that you don't go radio silent after a workshop. The next delay is attention. We all have Zoom fatigue. It can be really hard to pay attention on Zoom calls. And so a good way to combat this is to make sure that you have an understanding with your group that everybody's going to have their camera on, their mics on, to try and replicate what it looks like if we were all in the same room doing a workshop together physically. The other thing that I really recommend is that everyone has a role. So everyone that's attending your workshop has a role of some kind, whether it's timekeeper or helping you take notes or making sure that everybody knows how to use your tool. Make sure that everybody is very participatory, and that can help you alleviate some of the battle for attention. Now, you may get pushback on investment of time because workshops do take time. At the very least, a workshop is going to be an hour. At the most, it could take a day or two. And so how do you combat this pushback for time? It goes back to what we do when it comes to pushback on value, and that's going to be aligning and communicating on the expected outputs of this workshop. The other thing to do here is to surface the time saved. So the time that you put into this workshop ended up netting out to time saved on building the wrong product. The last 3 delays are budget, tools, and action. So you might not have a budget, and that's okay. A workshop can be really, really inexpensive. So a few ways to combat this if your budget is $0 is to utilize your company's tools. So maybe they have Zoom and you can utilize Zoom itself. Don't underestimate the power of pen and paper as well. Pen, paper, your phone, sometimes that's all you need. Now, your partners might be unfamiliar with collaboration tools, and this could be a hiccup in your workshop. So if your partners are going to be using a collaboration tool that they might not have used before, make sure that you're building time into your workshop to explain how the tool works. Make sure that you give them a little bit of homework or prep work beforehand so that they have the tool downloaded and that they have familiarized themselves with it. And build some extra time into your workshop knowing that you might encounter some tool issues. And finally, the last delay that we're going to combat right now is action. It can be unclear what next steps would be or where the workshop goes from here. So make sure that you're communicating clearly what are the next steps from this workshop. Identify action owners and update the team on the progress being made each week. So now that you understand better how to remove the delays that you may encounter, let's talk about the last and perhaps most important part of building and running a successful workshop, and that is measuring success. So all throughout the different product development process, you're going to be able to measure success at that particular moment, as well as the end of the product development stage. So in that particular moment, you're going to be able to measure success and whether or not you were able to meet the goals that you had aligned on with your workshop. Were you able to complete all the activities? Were you able to meet the goals that your cross-functional partners had aligned on and had the expected outputs? At the end of the product development stage, you want to reflect to see how that workshop helped that product development stage become or be successful. Did the workshop result in knowledge that the team was able to utilize? Did the workshop identify a direction or a pain point? Looking at those different questions will help you understand if the measurement was a success. And that's going to be important because when it comes time to reiterate the value of a workshop, or if you get pushback on timing, you're going to be able to show them an example from this workshop and how it led to, hopefully, success. You want to be able to understand and measure whether or not your workshop was able to generate new ideas, whether it was able to surface gaps, whether it was able to drive alignment and provide inspiration and drive action. Workshops have the power to help you build great products, the right products for your customers. They have the power to drive alignment, to help with prioritization. They can really be a secret tool in your research and design toolbox. I hope that you found this talk helpful, and I hope that you're able to take these tips back to your own company and your own team and run a successful workshop. Thank you.